Well, today we've got a really big surprise for you. Joel MacCharles and his partner Dana Harrison are preserving geniuses. They have this amazing book called Batch, which you should all get. And they run a really wonderful website called wellpreserved.ca. Tell us a little more about what you do, Joel.
Yeah, we preserve food, and we like to try to challenge people to think beyond the paradigms of mason jars, jams, and pickles. And we love that stuff, but that's not the whole world of preserving. We're talking about kombucha, we're talking about yogurt, we're talking about making bacon, making booze, anything that you can preserve, using your fridge and freezer better. All examples of the 7 different styles of preserving that we're passionate about. And we're really passionate about the idea of batching preserves. And what that means is, in the same time that somebody makes one preserve, I typically use 2 or 3 different complementary styles to make other preserves.
So we're not talking giant vats of boiling jam and a whole day's work here.
We do that from time to time, but to give you an idea, we have 30 recipes in the book that are called 10 minutes or less, but most are really about 15 to 20 seconds or less, and we'll show you some of those techniques today.
All right, well, let's start.
Okay, so to start, we're going to make something called lemon salt. And this was inspired, I'm just using a peeler to pull the zest off. And this was inspired by, if you've ever had preserved lemons, really popular in Northern Africa cuisine. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this is a preserve I made last night. It's about 12, 18 hours old. This will last on your shelf indefinitely, no boiling water. I'd already be done it if I wasn't talking. And we'll get back to it, because what we're actually going to do is we're going to start the second preserve now, because it takes longer. And the second preserve uses the bitter pith.
Okay.
And we're actually going to make bitters. So this is the lemon bitters. You could do this on a regular stove.
And you got nothing in the pan, no oil, nothing, it's just a pan, throwing the pith in here?
Yes, so what we're actually trying to do is the one thing that everybody's scared of doing is we're trying to burn the pith.
Why?
Why? Great question. There's 2 or 3 reasons we're trying to burn the pith. Number 1, it's going to add color to our bitters. So it's going to take what would be a clear liquid and turn it really like a beautiful whiskey color. Number 2, it develops flavor. So, you're a campfire person and you've got that great kind of smoky, charred flavor that you wouldn't get if it was just the pith. It also adds caramelization sweetness to the natural oils that are inside the pith. So all you need to do is just push them down, and you don't have to be active on this. Like if it was just me in the kitchen, I'd let this kind of do its magic as I'm working on the lemon salt.
What else can you use bitters for?
So bitters are, amazing. Cocktails are great, of course. We drink a lot of carbonated water in our house. It makes water more exciting. You can add it to tea. Anytime you add bitters to tea, absolutely. Anytime you add sugar or sweetness or honey to something, honey or sweet and bitter go really well together. So anytime you add that, awesome. So as that's burning, I love saying it that way as opposed to cooking. You can see my zest that I pulled off. Now we're going to work with the zest. So this is, again, a really simple preserve. This is now curing. What you're working on is an infusion. So the idea of batch is using multiple techniques. What I do with this to make this salt is just cut the zest really fine. And then we add it to a jar and we just cover it in salt. And really, that's as easy as it is. And this is such a cool preserve because you can use it within, really, you use it right away, but it really starts to take on a real magical flavor even within 6 to 10 hours of you making it. So now we're gonna go back to the bitters, and I'll just pull these out. Really simple. You can see they've got that beautiful charred kind of blackened color.
It smells good too.
So there's steam coming out of this right now, and this is called an infusion. Right? And what works really well with infusion is heat. So by pouring the alcohol, in this case it's just overproofed rum, I'm just going to pour some rum directly into the jar. And you can make these black any way you want. Campfire would have done, you could have done them on charcoal, whatever you want.
Oh, it's already, you can already smell it.
You can get that caramely flavor and smell off that, right? And this will be very quickly turned dark. Our lemon salt is really cool because it's what I call an infinity preserve. Okay. What that means is you don't have to empty the jar before you keep preserving. So anytime you grab a lemon, you're saying, oh, I don't need the zest today, throw it in a jar of salt. So you don't have to wait. You'll never waste zest again. I don't measure. It's approximately 3 to 4 times the amount of salt as I do lemon. Okay. But there's no real magic there. So that's done.
That's it?
Yeah, so we made 2 preserves, that quick and that easy.
That's really quick and easy, yeah. Anybody could do that.
What we're left with is this poor lemon that's left over that we've used. So what we could do with this lemon is multiple things. We could squeeze it, of course. We could preserve it by freezing it. Lemons are great frozen if you use them in soups and stews. They're not great for cocktails and that type of thing after. But we also slice it thin. These were sliced with peels. For the dehydrator junkies, and I know a camping crowd is that, cut them as thin as you can and dehydrate them at about 135 degrees, about 6 or 8 hours, and they'll dry really brittle.
And what would you use them for?
I love making what I call a tea cocktail, which is like a liter of tea, and I add different things to it. So if I added this, a dried hot pepper, and maybe some honey, you've got an amazing tea within that. But you can grind them and turn them into a powder for things like rubs. I add a couple of these into rice when it's cooking. Certainly, again, any citrusy stew that you're using, like a lemon stew, this can really work with. Sit it on top of fish when you're baking fish, or even inside if you want to get that really bitter but really rich flavor, because you've got all parts of the lemon here. It's also, and this may be a little gross, but man, this is backcountry tip. An amazing decongestant. If you just have a jar with a couple of these in and you take a deep smell, it opens up your sinuses.
Well, the lemon salt certainly did that. And so if you're camping, this is just brilliant, right?
Yeah, and if you want maximum efficiency for camping, turn it into a powder, because this whole thing here would turn into a tablespoon of powder, and you'd have a ton of deep citrus flavor that you could use for like a rub if you were fishing. Way easier than carrying a lemon in, and certainly way lighter, right?
Exactly.
So that's as easy as it is to kind of tackle a lemon 3 or 4 different ways. And this is a great example of using the whole vegetable or fruit. And we often do this while we're making dinner.
Yeah. So this is just a small taste of all the wonderful recipes you can get in the batch book. If you'd like to buy the book, the link will be in the description below. And if you like this video, please subscribe.